Hi, my name's Alan Edwards and I'm the project lead on Estranged. And I'm going to go through some of the statistics from the alpha release we just had and kind of show you what we're planning to do for the future and for the next alpha. So if you haven't played Estranged Act 2 Alpha 1, you can get it from imestranged.com/download. But I'm sure if you've been following Estranged on social media or Steam, you would have seen that spammed quite a few times now. And that's available for Windows and Mac OS. So in general, these are the statistics from the alpha. There were over 250 total players so far, and that's still climbing. People are still playing it. The completion rate, although it's quite hard to calculate, was about 70%. So 70% of people started the game and got to the credits at least once. The players were from 46 different countries, and we got 54 feedback emails. Now, there was an in-game feedback form that people could optionally use, and that went directly to my and some other devs' inboxes, and it went into our Slack development channel. So we were able to see it as it was posted. 95% of the people that played were on Windows, and 5% were on Mac OS. Also, since we started developing Act 2, which was quite a while ago, probably immediately after Act 1, we have had a Slack where we've been communicating, and we opened that probably just over a year ago. And in that we just reached the milestone of 152,000 messages. So that's some statistics from our internal stuff. So an overview of the feedback. This is quite lengthy, but I'll try and get through it quite quickly. So people were talking about the unoptimized outdoor areas. We didn't do any performance work on the alpha. It was just you know, to get people to play it and get feedback. Optimization will probably happen before the final release. So the problem with the physics was actually brought up by a few people. When the player bumps into any physics objects, they tend to shoot away. There's no in Source Engine and in Act 1, the physics objects stopped the player, but in Real Engine, by default, they don't, and we need to look into that. Also, this is a problem I knew about before release, and it just requires tweaking the physics engine a little bit. But the very small physics objects, not large physics objects, actually fall through the world at the minute. And actually you can test that by picking up something very small and clicking it like a paper cup. Click is throw in Estranged, and that will most likely fall out of the world and get lost forever, which is not something we want to release with. That's just a case of tweaking the physics engine in Unreal. The interaction distance is too short. People were complaining about having to crouch down to pick up Liam Jones' keycard, for example. People with it seems to be people with mechanical hard drives and the lower end machines saw things popping in. Of course, with Act 2, we've opted to use the Unreal Engine for level streaming, which means that when you get to a certain point in the level, it will stream in the next level section. So it's kind of a distance-based trigger for streaming in levels. And some machines aren't able to actually stream in the levels fast enough. So in that case, we need to actually artificially hold the player somewhere. Mirror's Edge did this by putting that there are certain points where you would kind of get in an elevator, and if you had a slow computer, the elevator ride would take a long time because it would actually stream in the level in the background. So that's one option, or we just throw up a little a loading spinner saying, sorry, you're going to have to wait. That's not preferable because that kind of takes the player out of the game. But I'm gonna test some approaches. Audio tapes need work. This was kind of my temporary recording for the in-game audio logs. And yes, I think they need re-recording. Hopefully with someone else. We'll see. More background story in levels. The levels are a little bit empty. We are obviously going to be continually fleshing them out for future alphas. Mouse options needed and binding for keyboard controls. Got a lot of feedback about that. The minecart puzzle needing some improvement. Right now that puzzle consists of pressing E on a board, and the cart kind of plays a sequence and bashes into a rock. It's not very impressive at the minute. And the flashlight dies too fast, and people were confused. We had a few people that didn't really understand how that worked because there's no battery heads-up display. That's something that I just didn't get around to putting in. We are planning to have the same kind of mechanism as Act 1 for that. So the release goals before we released the alpha, this was something I kind of had in my mind. Overarching, are we moving in the right direction? So is this the way people want Estranged to go? What's Unreal Engine 4 like in the wild? We knew what Source was like. Of course, there's lots of games released with Unreal Engine 4, but every Unreal Engine 4 game uses Unreal differently. So are some of the choices we've made for kind of, the cascaded shadow maps, the dynamic sunlight, is that going to be too intensive on some people's machines? We didn't have a good performance benchmark in the real world. Also, to find out the best way to distribute builds. We didn't actually know the best way to distribute these builds because Act 1, it was all done on ModDB, but that's less appropriate for Act 2 because it isn't a mod. Also find the best way to communicate the builds with players and future releases. So the direction, it seems like we just need to keep doing what we're doing. People have overwhelmingly been positive about what we have so far, and we're very, very grateful for that. We intend to make Act 2 even better than Act 1. So Unreal Engine 4, we distributed a zip archive with a prerequisites installer for Windows and just a binary for people to run. And it seems like people just figured that out. That was fine. We distributed on the itch.io desktop client, which is, it's a little bit like Steam, but it's for kind of indie development. And there's no kind of approval process to get on there. But there were very few problems with Unreal Engine 4 in the wild. Some people reported that they couldn't actually start the game because their hardware didn't support DirectX 10. But there were very, very few people that reported problems with it. Even mixture of performance feedback. We actually had some people saying that it ran better than Act 1 on their machines, and some people saying that it didn't perform as well. But obviously that depends on how they'd kind of tweak the graphics settings. So might look at in the future trying to report that back via anonymous statistics, just kind of an average frame rate with settings, but we'll see. It might not be necessary. So communicating with players, we used Facebook, the Steam community, an email list. An email list I put up about maybe 2 weeks before the release, and that has 154 people on it. So that went out to around 154 people on the day of release last Friday. Twitter and ModDB. Every single thing worked well. ModDB worked better than I was expecting. People are still kind of using ModDB and tracking Estranged, and that was really nice to see. Got lots of feedback on there. So what's the future of Act 2? So enemies, that's on the roadmap, gunplay, readables, many more readables, lots more interactivity in the maps, more locations to explore. We need to fine-tune the pain points. So for example, the throwing physics objects out of the world, that is a pain point, and we need to fix that, along with, the player bumping into a physics object and it's going flying. That's something we need to tune. More physics puzzles. I really like physics puzzles. We need to just cram more in there. Make each alpha bigger and better. That's what we're gonna plan to do. Also, very, very far down the line, Act 1 was on Steam Greenlight, and that's how it got on Steam. I think we'll go the same way with Act 2. So once we have something we think people will really enjoy, we'll move it to Steam Greenlight and try and get it on Steam to release. So in closing, if you played Estranged, thank you for playing. I can be reached at alan@alanedwards.com if you want to chat, or you want to kind of start contributing to Estranged. That would be great as well. If you haven't played, iamastranged.com/download is the download URL. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching.